Morning, y'all. Off to America today for the golf show. There's a penguin in the house. A penguin?
Sorry.
Should we look at the first questions for lowering your scores? This one's quite funny. Will watching golf on YouTube lower my scores? Probably not. But saying that, so for me as a kid, and still now, I'm very much a visual learner. So watching golf, watching their mannerisms, where they put their glove, how they mark the ball between each putt, to the practice swings, to how they line it up, they're things that I would kind of take on board and use or not, subject to if I thought they helped me or not. So watching golf did absolutely make me get into golf quicker and understand how to play quicker. I'll never forget teaching an Egyptian woman in London once, and I said, I think you might have heard me say this story before, we're going to do putting next week. I just said that, like, great lesson today, we're going to do putting next week. She said, what's putting? And I thought, as a young coach, I just thought, yeah, like there's some people have never seen golf, and I'm talking about golf as if I know because I've played it all my life, just so kind of so blasé. So watching it absolutely can make you better. Watching idiots on YouTube, that's a different question though, isn't it? Right, time for bed. I'll probably be up at 1 AM. We do another question then. Long journey. Always suffer with a little bit of jet lag early on. Is knowing you miss one of the keys? That is a great question. The reason that's such a good question for me is it's something I have been trying to say for a long time. It's not always about how good your good shots are. Rory's a great example. He's got no idea of where his miss is, so he's out, he blows up, he has disaster holes. His good shots are as good as anyone's who plays in our group because he has a certain amount of speed. If you're tight lie chipping over a bunker and you chip it to all in 4 foot, 2 foot, 3 foot stiff, it's as good as anyone can do within reason. It's about having your bad shots in play, knowing where they're going to be when they're not in play, so even when you're having your bad days you can still hang on to those 0.1s and not go up. Knowing your miss is massive. Good players often know where their miss is. They're still working to fix it and control it, but they know where it's going to go and they can play around it. Definitely one of the big keys. If you're wondering what the time is, that is not a bad inning to me. 2:45 in the morning, 7:45 in the UK. I've got my new hat on now. I'm ready for the show. It's not over yet though. Right, being more or less aggressive, such an individual question, isn't it? Because some people, they're going to be too aggressive and it lets them down, and others, they're not aggressive enough and then obviously they could push a bit harder. I think the best tip for you would be knowing when to be aggressive, so when to push, which is no different to knowing your patterns of different shots. So for instance, if you push with your driver to try and hit it harder, do you get in more trouble or not? If your success rate is, let's say, 60% when you hit it harder, then maybe when things aren't going that well and you need to push more aggressive for that birdie, give it a go, because your 60% success rate is there. It's always about work. It's like gambling. The best golfers are really good at gambling because they really know their odds with the different clubs. So knowing when to push or not is one of those questions. Just being able to say flat, or you should be more aggressive all the time, I just don't think that you're never going to be able to answer that question that way. It's going to be situation based around the odds that you bring with each club. I'm on the Titleist booth at the moment. It's very busy. Right, just got back to the room. I've been talking far too much again tonight. Caught up with Steve Buzz. I haven't seen him for maybe 2 years. It was lovely to see the good old boy. Seems to be really enjoying himself out here in Florida. Well done, Steve. Good to see you doing well. Last question then, before I get into bed, because I've got to get into bed because I've got to make sure I'm up at 2. Jet lags, obviously. Can't sleep past 2 AM, can I? Last question, will a gap test lower my scores? It absolutely could lower your scores. A gap test will give you a good insight into what Gaps you have obviously for distance, but often more than not in gap tests you get to show people the gaps they have in lefts and rights, and then also how their clubs stall when they get around the 6 iron upwards. So lots of people start then seeing that they don't see the 10, 8, 10 yard gaps between clubs. They all get a bit bunched up, and then that allows you to start thinking about hybrids, dropping clubs out, using different lofts, and even different kind of, going into lower spin models that might bomb it up in the air a bit, and not having as many of those long irons in your bag. The other thing that a gap test can show you should think of a gap test as short and long, so your dispersion, your gapping of your clubs, but you should also then try and work in the patterns, like I said at the start of the video. A gap test can show you the patterns of each club, missing lefts, missing rights, with those different lofts, as much as they can show you how far they go. Definitely a gap test. Total must if you want to get serious about lowering your scores. Now I'm going to get serious about getting in there, because I need to sleep. You do have to have some level of sleep to function, I think, don't you? So I think I better get some. See you soon.